to being influenced by media than other people. And some of it comes from the way in which the message is constructed. Because messages can be constructed in a particular way to elicit involvement, and that involvement then interacts with consumption so that people are more influenced by media. And you see, here's what's going to happen. People aren't watching television commercials anymore. There's only 2 television commercials that people will watch consistently when they have DVR. And of course, all that stuff is tracked. One of them is video game advertisements because they're cool. They're awesome. Well, they're narrative-based and they're fast-paced. That's one of the reasons why people watch them. The other one that, the other advertisement that people will watch is movie advertisements. And the thing that both of them have in common is that they're both narrative-based. So people will watch television commercials that are narrative-based. You're going to see a lot more commercials in the next couple of years that are going to be narrative-based. And it's going to be based upon the research that people like me and my colleagues that I'll hang out with next week do. You're already seeing it in political advertising. If you go online and you look at some of the political advertisements, what you're going to see is that they look a lot more like movie trailers than they do look like the traditional political ads. And that's based upon the research that we're doing as well. And so there's a relationship between the research that us poorly paid academics do and what the industry adopts. Because, you know, people who get degrees like mine, some of them come here and they teach. But some of them go out in industry, and what they do is they stand between the academy and industry, and they take that research and they interpret it and they use it in practice in order to, you know, in my case, be more influential. But of course, it happens across the academy. All right, let's continue to talk. Now, we've already talked about some cultivation effects. And you have intuitively discovered some of them. Now, I'm only touching on a few. But we know that people who watch more TV believe that, in general, that people are at a greater risk of being the victims of crime than people who watch less TV. Okay, got it? You got your high TV people and your low TV people. You got your 10-hour-a-day people and your 2-hour-a-day people. The 10-hour-a-day people believe that the risk of being a victim of violent crime is much higher than the 2-hour people. And we observe these differences over and over again, and we've been observing those differences going all the way back to the mid-1970s. Affluence. People who watch a lot of TV believe, in general, that people are richer than they really are. That there is greater affluence in society than there otherwise is. Vice. People who watch more TV believe that more people would be willing to pay for the services of a prostitute, that more people do drugs, that more people engage in vice than actually do, and also than people who watch less TV. Occupational prevalence. Can you guess, you know, where people who watch a lot of TV, okay? What occupations do they overestimate in society? What can you guess? Doctors. Yep, they believe that there are more doctors in society than there really are. More healthcare professionals than there really are. What else?
Lawyers.
Lawyers, that's another one. They believe that there are more lawyers than there really are. What else? Well, law enforcement.
Yeah.
They believe that there's more law enforcement personnel than there really are.
CEOs of like businesses and all that kind of stuff?
I don't know about businesses. I don't know if that one's ever been tested, but they do believe that more people are white collar than working class. But in truth, more people are blue collar and gray collar than white collar. And so they do overestimate the percentage of Americans that are white collar.
So educated, higher educated?
I don't know about that. I don't know if that one's ever been tested directly, if they overestimate the prevalence of education in society. About 25% of Americans have undergraduate degrees, something like 2 to 3% have master's degrees, and less than 1% have PhDs. But I don't know what people who watch a lot of TV presume. Marital discord. These are common beliefs. By no means does this exhaust the effects that we found. And that is, we have found that watching a lot of television influences your beliefs. That is, what you believe is true about the world. And of course, we also find this with news. There was a study that was done a couple years ago about it was 10 misconceptions that people have about public affairs, and they associated that with the media that they consume, and they found that people who consumed cable news were much more misinformed than people who read newspapers. Values. Interestingly enough, and I replicated this finding. Back in 1982, Gerbner found that people who watched a lot of TV wanted lots of government services, but didn't think they should pay very much in taxes. And I replicated that finding actually last fall. I found that it's still true among college students. You watch a lot of TV, you believe that you're entitled to more government services than you're willing to pay for. That summarizes many of the problems that we're having right now. Mean world syndrome, we talked about that earlier. People have less social trust to watch more TV. And I'm not the only person who's found this, but my recent research shows that people who watch more TV believe that stuff defines their identity and believe that it's associated with happiness. Actually, it's consumer materialism is the idea that consumer products are terminal value. You know, like religion and following the Ten Commandments is a terminal value. It's like one of the life's goals to consume stuff, and we find that that's true. Back in the 1960s, the percentage of Americans who went to college who reported that their goal in college was to achieve a comfortable lifestyle was something like 30%. Recent studies show that that has increased to something around 70%. 70% of students who go to college, their goal is to achieve a comfortable lifestyle. That's why they went to college. But that has increased substantially, more than doubled, over the last 40 or 50 years. At the same time, the percentage of college students, and I don't remember these exact numbers, I should because I just wrote about it in the paper I just wrote. The percentage of students who believe that college is about finding a life philosophy that is determining the meaning of life, that number has decreased by half. So it's been a competitive relationship. As more people have defined college as a means or mechanism by which they will achieve a comfortable life in terms of what they can consume, as that's gone up, the percentage who believe that college is about discovering, good values and a meaning of life has gone down. It's created a lot of problems for us in the academy. So who pays for the news? Who pays for the news? You watch news on TV, who's paying for it? Advertisements are paying for it. Actually, when you watch TV, who's paying for all of that?
Advertisements.
Advertisements. Okay? There's only one owner of the news, and that is corporations. Almost all the news, almost all the television programming that you will see when you turn on your TV at home emanates from a very few number of companies. Something like 80% of all the media that you can be exposed to on television comes from just 6 companies. Now, I stopped long ago trying to track what those 6 companies were because they merge all the time, and it's always changing. But the one thing that you can know is that all 6 of those companies are corporations. Now, that being said, what we can do is we can ask ourselves, what kind of an institution is a corporation versus what kind of an institution is the government?